Ugh.
Say hi. Hey, good morning, Juniper.
Hello? Hello, Juniper. Juniper, you're on the TV. It's time to go live. Well, the computer, they're not going to have TVs when she's older. You're on the screen.
She just woke up.
Good morning, Juniper.
That track is actually a really good one for intro.
She's
and
better than a pet.
It's just a loop of that. It's just a loop that I made for somebody because like they like this one part of the beat I made and they never used it. So.
Oh, it looks like Paul is going to be on with JJ McCullough tonight at 7 p.m. Central. Let's see. Am I doing anything? I can stick around for the very beginning of it. Then I have a group.
Probably. I mean, if I might stop by for a minute, but I'm not really that interested in hearing another conversation with JJ. To be honest.
Yeah. Benjamin Boyce is having a live panel right now on gender, media and gender. So I want to take a peek at that.
Let's do that.
And then I think I have some tweets.
Tweet. Where's our owl at? You got a tweet. She goes, whoo. What do we got? We got a moose though, don't we? I don't even know what moose sound like. Probably just scary. Moose.
All right, let's see what Benjamin's up to. Oh, he's still. Oh, fuck, ads. Hang on.
Yeah.
Oh, he's still counting down, so it's not premiered yet. I guess he's a little late. But one of the panelists is a guy named Ben Apple. He's a little gay guy. He's a writer, and I did an interview with him a year or two ago on my New World Chaos podcast. Y'all can check it out. It was one of my most powerful interviews I think I've ever done. I wasn't prepared for how much I would relate to what he had to say. And it's mostly me sitting there in silence and just letting him talk because I was so moved. In fact, I'll put the link. And then we'll watch the Benjamin panel for a little bit. And maybe there'll be some topics we can talk about.
Sure. So let me check and see if anybody's on Discord right now. See if anybody's like on there to holler at. I don't really see anybody. There's nobody active right now. Everybody's asleep, I guess.
They know where to find us.
I know, but people forget. You know, people. I mean, heck, if I wasn't on this show every day, I would forget sometimes myself. I know I would. Not would because. Forget the time. Like, I lose track of time really easily. I'm really bad with keeping track of time. So like I would.
He's on now. So.
Okay, let's check it out.
Fringe.
Oh, I got to change my settings. Hang on.
Landscape, and as we describe that, we can talk about this love affair with this aspect of gender and why it's such a magical concept that just captures our imagination.
Can y'all see it?
Introduce yourselves and then tell us how you...
Yeah. No, I can't.
Okay, great.
All right.
Yes, now I can.
Hi,
It took a second for the load for some reason.
I got into this area of inquiry because I was looking at illiberalism. When I was working on The Coddling of the American Mind with Greg Lukianoff and Jonathan Haidt, I had to become their subject matter expert on a number of things, including critical theory. And I've been concerned about illiberalism for quite a while. And I started to see that there were two completely different moral paradigms that were being sort of embodied. And the gender issue is an embodiment, a literal embodiment of illiberalism. A liberal moral paradigm really depends on the locus of moral agency being the individual, the morality or immorality of an action being inherent in the action, and that intention is part of the impact, that truth exists, and that words convey information and help us think about reality. And the illiberal moral paradigm is the inversion of all of those things. The locus of moral agency is power. The disempowered are morally good and the empowered are morally bad. The morality or immorality of an action depends on the identities of the actor and the target and the relative power imbalance. Intention has nothing to do with impact. Truth and objectivity are white supremacist concepts. And words are not the things that we use to convey information about the world and help us think about reality. They are the material that creates reality. So that's how I got into this. And of course, we can talk more about what those things mean.
Great. My name is Ben Appel. I am, like Pamela, just so grateful to be here. I'm really overwhelmed by the company that I find here. I'm just excited to meet so many people I've admired from afar for a really long time. So I got into this probably, I think around 2017. I had returned to school. I was a Columbia student in my 30s. They have a program there for non-traditional students, people who had left college years ago and then went back to school. So I got my undergraduate degree from Columbia between 2017 and 2020, which was a really, crazy time to be there. My first week, Trump was inaugurated. So it was a really tense time on campus. And I kind of entered the space as this so-called progressive radical. I was intent on being, an LGBTQ journalist and writer. I was studying writing there. I interned for GLAAD my first summer. And it was there that I really kind of saw the inner workings of this organization and the dogma that was fueling their advocacy. And I had these internal questions that were heretical, and I didn't, want to say them out loud, even let myself really think them. I was really suppressing my speech, but also even my own thoughts. And I started to, when there was a lot of talk about the trans kid and the trans girl, I started to look back at my own history and kind of start to interrogate what's the difference between a trans girl and the boy that I was as a kid, who loved My Little Ponies and wearing skirts and playing with girls and doing all kinds of girl things, and was called a girl and was made fun of in middle school and had his sex questioned and interrogated all the time. Are you a boy or a girl, etc. And who grew up to be gay. And what was the overlap there. And so I started to become concerned about that. And then meanwhile at Columbia, I was studying a lot of human rights issues, but also a lot of gender and sexuality, and in fact, in the Middle East, and in the Ottoman world, and also modern Muslim world. And I started to learn about what was going on, especially in Iran, with transitioning homosexuals, because homosexuality is illegal in Iran and a lot of countries under Islamic law. And I started to notice a certain parallel between practices that were occurring here and there. And I at first kind of, again, just kept these thoughts to myself. And I thought that, that's just a weird conspiracy and level of paranoid thinking that, they're certainly not, we're in a liberal, country. This, democracy that we live in, America, is not practicing the same kind of medicine that the Islamic regime is in Iran. But then when I started to educate myself more about these issues and read the works of scholars who were almost writing about their practices and through a sympathetic lens, I realized that there was quite a bit of commonality between what was occurring here and what was occurring there. And that really concerned me. So I just kind of started to become a little bit more vocal and a little bit more really intent on researching and getting deeper into it. And then I published a couple pieces, and that, you know, once you're in it, you're branded, and that's it. And so there's really no turning back, but I'm glad, because I don't intend to.
Hi, I'm Christina Buttons, and I became a journalist that almost exclusively
That's Colin
covers
Wright.
this issue because
I
of the
can't believe
way
she's sitting there
that
playing on her
mainstream media outlets have failed to objectively report on it.
Okay, I just wanted to watch a clip. I don't want to watch the whole thing. It's
No,
So,
yeah,
there we-
yeah, it's fine. Yeah, I was listening to it. I was while I was listening to it, I was looking to see. I found this article on.
they seem nervous. All of them seem anxious and nervous. None of them seem confident and relaxed. Especially
Yeah,
that first lady with the I don't know. It's different
yeah.
culture than mine.
I just like just put in like the terms of like, you know, like the narrative around like about trans people and stuff like that changing and stuff. Like this is a front page of the Telegraph article that I guess came out this
Today?
morning. Yeah, this is this is an article. It's an opinion column that was published in the Telegraph, and there's the link.
Yeah, self ID. That's the type of trans that Lib is, and that I to me is different than the medical type of trans.
Well, yeah, but I mean, but at least he's an honest actor anyway. But like, this is I'm just saying that like, I don't think a year ago.
Oh, you know what? There's a paywall. It won't let me read it.
It won't. It
No.
just let me read it. Here, let me see
It's
if I can
not letting me read it. Maybe I read too many Telegraph articles. I don't know, but there's a paywall.
Let me see here. I'll pull up my screen then.
Okay.
Now put a payroll for me. Okay, I know how to. I can get around it there. Anyway, but in other words, I was just reading the article though, and it's basically just stuff. It's nothing anything new. I'm just saying about the fact that this is being published in the Telegraph is kind of a big deal. I think at this point, because I don't think in this last year there haven't been many points that I think that any newspaper of the level of the Telegraph would have published this at all. It's basically, I mean, it's not saying anything. It's anything like offensive or anything like that. It's just basically pointing out that some of the people that it's talking about, especially like the people in the prisons and stuff like that in Scotland, are using the trans identification thing as a way to, you know, are just con men. They're just using it as a way to get.
Yeah, people will abuse it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's no if self ID is the only standard, people will abuse that.
But for the most part, people haven't been questioning it for a long time now. And if you did question it, you're a bigot. So I'm gonna say, at least there's some change that's at least happening. That's at least
it's shoddy policy. It's very poor policy to just take someone at their word about something so important that has so many benefits and consequences for how you identify. So I have a couple of videos I wanted to show from Twitter. I'll pull up the first one. This is some Muslim lady in Finland.
They don't have a lot of diversity here. It's just Finns and Finns and Finns, and everywhere you look, they're just Finns. So it's a bit difficult to blend in here. But I think that's something that is solvable in the near future because more and more immigrants are coming here, and it's good for the society.
There's something that really bothers me about that.
yeah. No, I mean,
I think it's the implication that if you have too many of one group, there's something wrong with that. Like people, like too many Jews in Israel, too many Cajuns in Louisiana, too many white people in New England, like that you have to have some kind of superficially diverse group everywhere you go. Otherwise, there's something wrong with it, and it needs to be solved.
By importing lots of people from other countries. Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, well, that's basically. I mean, that's part of like the same thing. Like, I see nothing wrong with people immigrating anywhere they want. I mean, I think that, you know, I think it's ridiculous that the U.S. gets criticized so much for their immigration policies, considering the fact that almost every other country on the planet has far stricter ones than ours. You can't just go and just immigrate anywhere you want. that's like that's like some myth that I guess Canada actually does have much more lax immigration laws, according to John anyway. I know they didn't back whenever I was a teenager, because like when I was a teenager and I was a lot more liberal. At one point, I was even like one of those people like, oh, well, I just moved to Canada kind of thing, you know. When I looked into it, and yeah, it wasn't like something you could just do.
Yeah, like everybody was wanting to move to Canada. That was the place to go, especially if the United States became too restrictive or authoritarian.
Right, but
now I don't want to be anywhere near Canada. I'm too close to Canada where I am now.
Yeah. But the thing, if you, I guess according to John, it's actually quite easy to apply and immigrate to Canada now. But back then, whenever I was a teenager, if you looked into it, like it was just like most European countries, where in order to even get a basically what we would call a green card here, basically just to get just a temporary stay immigration pass. You had to have some kind of job or something that they needed in the country that there was a lack of, like if they didn't have enough,
which seems very reasonable.
Yeah, it seems very reasonable. If they needed heart surgeons and you're a heart surgeon, then you could probably get a green card and probably citizenship after a couple of years. But you had to do the same kind of things that you do in most European countries. The same way, you have to go through classes and tests and everything. And you have to learn the language and stuff like that. They do that everywhere. It's not like something that's like a uniquely American idea. And I don't understand where this idea comes from that Americans like have these draconian immigration laws, because we don't.
What is that idea out there? I'm not familiar with it myself.
Oh, it's been. I mean, in the immigration conversation for the longest time, like all I used to hear back whenever it was like, especially during like the last couple of elections and stuff, when people talk about immigration, they talked about all they talk about is how the U.S. should be more lax with immigration, and nobody really talks about what immigration is like anywhere else. They don't mention the fact that we do actually have some of the most lax and most forgiving and easy to get into. We're it's much easier to get into America than it is to get into pretty much anywhere else, legally speaking.
The issue that the way I understand is there's too much illegal immigration or unregulated immigration, that it's too easy to immigrate here outside of the legal process.
Yes, it is. It is too easy. I'm just saying, but in terms when it comes to legally immigrating here, you don't have to have a special. You don't have to have a job. You don't have to have a skill that we need people doing here. You
can just say I want to live here.
Yeah, you can just apply and go through the process, and it might take a couple of years. But I'm saying, there is no if you want to move to France, you can't just move to France, and unless you're basically rich, you're someone like Johnny Depp or somebody who lived. I know he has immigration status in France, something like that. But I think that's mostly it's a special status thing because he's a famous actor kind of thing. He basically paid enough money and they let him live there. But other than that, because I remember researching this a long time ago. Maybe I should re-research it. Maybe things have changed, but it used to be pretty much everywhere on planet, even some of the more communistic and some of the places that I don't know why anybody would want to go there. If you went there, you had to demonstrate some kind of utility to the country. And in a lot of these countries now, they use refugee statuses and everything to do a lot of this immigration stuff. But I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with I just don't see what the big deal is about expecting that people should be able to assimilate to some degree to the place they're going to move to. If you're going to go to a place that you're not from, and you don't,
as somebody who struggles to assimilate himself and who has dealt with issues of cultural assimilation from Cajun to American and being autistic, I've been up in the Pacific Northwest for almost 15 years now, and I have not been able to assimilate. So I wouldn't want to stigmatize that as some kind of failure on my part to not assimilate or some kind of motive on my part to not integrate with the culture up here. So I'm very skeptical of
culturally
plans to assimilate. I think people should assimilate to the degree that they want to and are able to, and no more than that.
Oh, okay.
But why would somebody want to move somewhere where they're not able to assimilate or not going to assimilate in the first place? That to me would disincentivize moving to that area to begin with. You would want to go somewhere where you are more able to assimilate.
I agree. I'm not saying it should be a legal thing. I'm not saying there should be some law in place. I'm just saying that I don't think it's unreasonable for people that live there to expect you to make an effort at least to speak the language or to try to
You can't control whatever amount of effort people make. That's not something you have. control.
My point being not that my point being that a lot of the immigration here, at least in Texas, the expectation is that we will assimilate to them, and like that's what I was getting to my point. And that's the expectation this woman has.
What is
like,
what is it? What does that mean for us to assimilate to them?
instead of them learning, instead of them learning our customs or whatever like that, and just making an effort to try to understand and fit into the culture somewhat. And I'm not talking about, I don't fit into any culture myself. I personally don't, but I do speak, at least I speak English here. I know the basic, politeness customs. I know basically how people attitudes and everything are. I just understand.
What does it mean for Texas to assimilate to them? I'm not understanding what the expectation
for
is.
example, there are a lot of places that you have to speak Spanish now to even get a job there because we have so many Spanish speaking or Mexican people that have immigrated, that if you can't speak Spanish, then you can't communicate with most of the customers. So in order to get a job in a lot of places, like as someone who grew up here, you have to learn another language in order to get a job.
Well, isn't that what you're demanding of them?
But I grew up here. I was born here. Like, why would
you want to work with people whose language you don't speak? Like, I wouldn't apply for a job that had a Spanish language requirement because I know that I would be. The schools I taught at were mostly Mexican, but they didn't have a language requirement. But I had to interact with majority Hispanic students, and it wasn't an issue. Like, most of them spoke English.
Right. I mean, and like, it's only been recently that I've started. I in the last 10 years or so, I've seen this trend of like people that kind of refuse to even. I mean, and I'm not talking about. It's not even. I don't. If they can speak minor English, they can just basic communicational English. That's fine. They don't need to be fluent or anything. But just
how do you know they're refusing and they're just not able to? Like, learning a new language is very hard. Are they specifically going out on the street and saying, "I refuse to speak your stupid language, English"? Because you're making it sound like they're just stubborn, obstinate people. And there's so many other reasons that somebody might not adopt a new language.
This is based on conversations I've had with a lot of the immigrant people that I've worked with and stuff like that. I mean,
what do they say?
I mean, most of them did speak. Most of them did make that effort. And most of them were like, and like at least like most of them were. There's a couple of them that were they did not legally immigrate, but like, I mean, I had no issue with that really either at that point. I mean, like they were nice people and everything. But a lot of them, especially this one Guatemalan lady that used to work with me, and she was just like this Guatemalan grandma that used to work in the mornings at the movie theater, and she used to complain all the time about mostly teenagers and a lot, and she would tell me, she's like, because like they would come in and like, if I was at the counter and I couldn't understand what they were saying, they would come in and start speaking Spanish or something like that, and I could only make out a word here or there, so I have to go get somebody to come and talk to them or whatever. If I had anybody on shift, and sometimes I didn't. Sometimes I was the only person there, and we had conversations about that a lot. And she said, yeah, it's a real problem. Like they don't. There's a lot of people that move here now, that she herself, she can speak their language. She talked to them. It's like that they absolutely, she's like they will never learn. They don't want to learn. They have no desire to learn. They feel like there's enough of them here in the state, in the city, that we should have to listen. We should have to learn their language and not the other way around. That's what she told me.
I question whether it's people that don't speak Spanish should learn Spanish versus the United States has the capacity to provide enough Spanish speakers that they don't have to learn English. But I question whether they're actually demanding that non-Hispanic speakers suddenly start learning Spanish. I feel like as long as they have some Spanish speakers there to provide the services, that they're happy. And they're not walking around demanding people outside of that service interaction also learn Spanish.
At least in my interactions, and I always try to be very nice.
But they do have a point. There is enough capacity to serve the Hispanic population without them learning to speak English. But I don't think that they're demanding that people outside of that learn Hispanic as well. I've never heard that.
I mean, that's just the basic conversation.
They want to be served in Spanish. They want to be served in the language that's easiest for them to conduct business in, their native language. And I don't see a problem with that because we have the capacity to do it. But I question whether that's extending to them demanding that everybody else also learn Spanish. I've never seen that happen. As long as they're being able to be served by some people in Spanish, they seem happy.
I did not have that experience at all. I've encountered I more than once when this happened, they actually would get very angry and leave, and start yelling curses. I can understand a few words in Spanish. I know what the curse words are and stuff, at least a little bit. And like they would like, and I was trying my best. to
What
understand.
job was this anyway?
I was managing the movie theater here, but it's now
in the one in Vegas?
no, the one here in Irving that I used to manage, but it's closed now. But yeah. I mostly worked the day shift there, which is mostly when the Mexican. I mean, they come in at night too, but we had a lot more staff then. We had a lot of people, and we had many Spanish speaking employees, so that wasn't a big deal then. But when it was just me in the morning, and
Well, then what were they upset about? Like, what besides? Aren't you Spanish? Like, why
I'm
wouldn't you
Spanish,
want to
I'm
learn?
European Spanish, but not European
So,
Spanish. But
so they go show up at the movie theater. What you said, 3 or 4 in the morning, and there's a white guy that doesn't speak Spanish, and they get irate and they curse you.
Yeah, that happened a lot. But I mean, it wasn't that big of a deal. It's the attitude of it that bothers me, not the interaction itself. Customers get mad about all kinds of things all the time. That just happens in retail. I don't really care about that. It hurt my feelings. I just thought the attitude was odd because like I know that I could tell the reason they were mad is because like I couldn't understand what they were trying to ask. They were trying to ask a question, and they were using it, and oftentimes they wouldn't even like slow it down or anything. Like a lot of Spanish speaking people speak very,
Well,
very
I'm not going to be able to understand Spanish whether it's slow or fast. If I don't know the language, the speed they deliver is not going to make a difference.
I tried for years to learn Spanish because I come from a Spanish, my grandmother spoke primarily Spanish and my great grandmother spoke no English at all. And I grew up and my dad himself, even though he was born in Spain, he speaks very little, but he speaks enough to he could conversationally speak in Spanish. But I mean, I tried like hell to learn it too. I mean, especially when I was younger, I really wanted to be able to communicate with my grandmother better, really. But I just, for some reason, it doesn't click with my brain. Like, I've told,
Right, like English doesn't click in their brain.
Sure. And which is, once again, it's like, I mean, I would never try to move, but if I went to Mexico and I went around there and I couldn't find anybody that spoke English, I wouldn't be mad about it. That would be on me, not on them. That's my point. That's only my point. I'm just saying, like, if I go to a foreign country and I can't find anyone that I can communicate with because I didn't take I wasn't able to learn their language, that's not their fault. But the attitude of people I feel like that's the attitude I'm getting from like a woman like that in the video is that she feels like that she can't fit in there because there aren't enough people that are conforming to what she considers
right. And I don't even know if it's linguistic specifically. She seemed upset that there's
she
just
spoke English fine, right? She was speaking English, so I mean, it wasn't even like an issue with that.
Is that even an issue today with like Google Translator and cell phones and apps that can translate? So now, if those kids showed up at your theater, you would just pull out your phone and have them.
That's probably
ask
true.
their
I've
question on the
never
phone.
tried one of those live translation apps. I have never even attempted one of those before. So that AI or whatever has probably made that. Is probably we'll probably actually have the Star Trek Universal Translator thing before long, and we'll be able to have something in our ear that can just like hear any language. And when that technology is there, I'm like, yeah, I don't give a shit. I mean, anybody can speak. You come here speaking language. If I can understand you, if we can have a conversation because of technology, I think that's amazing. It's just like that's beyond. I think that people not being able to communicate is a problem because it does cause a lot of breakdowns in general communities and everything else that don't function well when people can't talk to each other. But that's not my point. My point was about like that. My point was that I was just using that as an example of something that I've seen in Texas, where I've seen like that same basic attitude of like, it's okay though that I can't really fit in here right now because enough people eventually like me are going to come here and will be the majority, and therefore it won't matter anymore.
You think? Do you think it's that, or there are already enough people there? That's why they come in the first place. Like, you think they're coming with one day there's going to be way more Spanish people, and I can live my life without speaking? Or do they come thinking, oh, there's already enough people here that speak Spanish, so this is probably a good place to get set up? It seemed like you're ascribing way more of a more like cynical motive to them than I think actually it warrants.
Maybe, and like a lot of this does
Like
come
they
from,
have this plot that one day all my people are going to be here and
I don't think it's a
displace the
plot.
Americans.
I don't think there's any coordination or any conspiracy behind it. There's no. It's not like a bunch of people got together in a room and decided to do this kind of thing. I'm not saying that at all. I don't think that's it. I think it's more of just like a general desire to immigrate to the U.S. or to wherever they want to go to move to another country, and a general feeling that whatever culture that you came from is somewhat superior to the place you're going, and therefore you want to try to remake it in that image somewhat, which I think is weird to do. But there are people.
No, I don't have a problem. I would love to remake the Pacific Northwest in the image of South Louisiana. If I could do it, I would.
Well,
And I think the people here would benefit too.
right. I mean,
And even the 11 nations, like Colin Woodward in the 11 nations, he has what is it, El Norte, which is Southern Texas, part of Arizona, New Mexico, Southern California, and he has it contiguous with parts of Northern Mexico. So all of that is one cultural unit, according to like his.
Southern California is nothing like Texas. I can tell you that much. I've lived in both.
I'm just telling you this 11 nations paradigm, which a lot of people find credible in you. So why would a person moving from one part of El Norte to another part change their expectation of that having that culture work any differently? If they're moving to Minnesota and complaining that there's not enough Spanish people, maybe, but they're moving from Mexico to Southern Texas.
I guess I mean, I guess that's fine. I find it a little. I mean, I just disagree on this. I mean, I just, as someone who literally was born, I wasn't born in this city, but I was born 3 hours away from here. I lived in Texas most of my life, and I don't mind. I like most Mexican people that I can talk, the ones I can speak to. But the fact that I would say literally, and I'm not being. This is not hyperbole. 80% of my neighbors I cannot communicate with a single bit. They all speak Spanish and they won't even try to slow it down. They won't even basically even respond to you if you speak to them. I mean, and that bothers me. I would like to be able to speak to my neighbors.
It bothers you that they don't speak at the pace you think they should speak.
No. I mean, it's not just the pace. The fact they won't even.
You said slow down.
They do.
You did. You said they won't even slow down. Like they're speaking at their natural pace. But because it's not up to your expectation of the pace,
if I'm trying to speak to them and if I'm talking too fast, or if I'm speaking to, I've had Southerners here tell me I talk too fast, and when they tell me that, I just
don't talk. I've been told that too. I don't talk to people that think I talk too fast. I'm like, well, you're not the person to communicate with it, because this is my natural pace of talking. Plenty of other people can understand it, so.
My grandmother used to say that to me, so I got used to slowing my speech down. But no, it's not like I said, it's not the act itself. It's more like the attitude and like I said, it's just like it's weird to get alienated in the place where you grew up. That's just weird to feel like you're the immigrant. I feel more like I'm an immigrant here than vice versa. I think that's weird because I was born like.
I think it's weird that you feel that too, and I wonder how much of it is subjective.
Maybe, but I mean, I've talked to other.
I don't think the immigrants are doing anything to you. If that's how you're feeling, I think that's more you than them.
I'm not the only person that's felt that here that I've spoken to.
No, probably not. Probably not.
But it's not. I mean, they're not doing anything to me. You're right. They're not attacking me in any way. It's just, I think I mean, with this, you brought the video up in the first place. I'm saying that's what the video is. What bothers me about the video is the attitude of that eventually we will have a large enough population here that we can kind of assimilate it to the way we want it, and it will be better. And it'll be a better place because of it.
Actually, what bothered me was the implication that if you have too many of one group of people in an area, that's something wrong about that. And that sounds kind of like what you might be saying is there's too many Spanish people in one area with not enough English diversity.
Not too many Spanish people. I don't really care that I mean, when I moved to this neighborhood, I didn't move to this neighborhood because I didn't know the demographics or anything. I moved here literally because
so there's too many people in one area that speak a certain language.
No, it's not. It's not about too many people. I find the attitude of of people that want to immigrate somewhere and yet they expect the place they immigrate to cater to them. I just think that's I think it's if nothing else, it's just rude. I guess maybe that's it. It's just impolite to go somewhere.
That's your opinion, and that's subjective.
Okay.
I don't think it's rude for somebody that doesn't speak English to move to America from Mexico and make use of the already robust system that we have to serve them in Spanish. I don't take that personally at all, or think they're being inconsiderate or rude. I understand it completely.
I mean, people in other countries have this. That's the reason they have all the strict immigration standards they have in these other places, is because they expect you to be able to, that's the reason why people you've heard, and it's a cultural trope even of people in European countries, talking about rude, obnoxious Americans that entitled Americans. They come there
Yeah,
as tourists.
we're probably worse when we immigrate than the Hispanic people are when they immigrate to us.
Maybe I can't exactly speak to that. I'm just a tourist alone, just being a tourist somewhere like that.
Just living up here in the Pacific Northwest from the South, people find me obnoxious and rude and all those other things that they say about American tourists. Just coming from one part of America to another, I get some of that stuff.
That's silly. You're such a polite person, and you do.
But I'm telling you, the mentality that you have toward the Spanish people in your neighborhood, people have toward me as an American that also speaks English, living here in the Pacific Northwest, because their cultural standard, their cultural expectations are very different than mine, and what I'm able to bring to the interaction. So I'm like more on the receiving end of what you're complaining about. So I'm trying to give from the other viewpoint. Plus, growing up in Louisiana, we have so many different languages that you grow up around. It's like a linguistic melting pot. And no, it never crosses anybody's mind that they should not speak their native language. A lot of the languages are dying out. We want them to speak their native language. That's what adds to that diversity. And it would never cross my mind to expect someone to not want to speak their native language or to force themselves to learn a new language. If they want to learn it, if they see an advantage to learning it, the incentives are certainly there for them to learn it. They will have a smoother time transacting in that culture. But to stigmatize not learning it or to put some kind of pressure that they should learn it.
If they make the choice to move to another country, I don't see why that's such a.
They're moving from Mexico to Texas. That's not like moving to Alaska where the culture is generally the same. They're not making that much of a cultural leap at all. And there's enough Spanish-speaking people in the area they're moving to that it's not really an issue. Even living in Vegas, Vegas was full of Hispanics, and there was enough Spanish speakers in Vegas that they could assimilate.
I never had that issue. I never had that issue in Vegas. I never once I ran into people who had that attitude or anything. If they couldn't speak English,
I didn't either.
They were usually very polite.
We had our neighbor, 2 doors down, there was this house full of Mexicans. They had the whole family living there. It was 30 people living in the house, and they had friends over there all the time. They had 20 cars in the driveway. They would do the piñata, they'd have celebrations and we loved them. They were lovely people. They were some of our best neighbors, but they had a really active, energetic, robust family and extended family, and very few of them spoke. The kids spoke English because they were in public school, and I taught some of them, but none of the adults spoke English at all. The kids would have to come and translate.
And they were probably very kind about it. That's my point. It's not the fact that they don't. My point is that my problem isn't the fact that they can't speak it or whatever. Like I said, my great grandmother never learned a bit of English. She was too old, I think, at that point to learn it. I don't hold any. I don't think that she was necessarily. I don't expect someone who's in their 60s to come here and with for their kids or whatever, and I expect or for their grandkids and expect. That's not my point. My point is that. But she never would have gotten mad or angry at somebody because they didn't learn her language. Her coming here. That was my point. Is the attitude that they expect that other people that in a place that the place that they're going where people already live need to change their lives. It's the same problem you have with people that expect people to affirm them, affirm their gender or whatever, something like that. It's like
Yeah, I've just never really like. I think maybe you've had a few interactions with some rude Mexicans, and you're extrapolating a lot from that I've never encountered.
I'm talking about a lot of interactions. I did work at that place for 2 years, and like, I mean, it was.
How many people have you met in your life that would you say expect you to speak like Americans learn to speak Spanish to accommodate them? Not provide Spanish speaking services, but themselves learn a new language to serve them.
What's the difference between like
because I think most of them want the ability to transact in Spanish. They don't necessarily want a non-Spanish speaker to learn Spanish to do that. If they can provide another Spanish speaker, translation services, phone line, a phone app that does it, they will be perfectly content. That is my belief, that they want the ability to transact business in Spanish. And as long as someone can provide that, they're not so much concerned about non-Spanish speakers also learning Spanish. They just want the ability to use their native language to conduct their business in.
And you feel like that should be the expectation anywhere. So like, no matter what country we go to.
No, but I'm saying I don't think it's unreasonable going from Mexico to the southern U.S. to have that expectation at all. Because there is enough Spanish culture there and Spanish language to meet that expectation. So I don't think they're moving here and saying, I wish all these dumb Americans would learn Spanish so I don't have to learn English. I don't think that's what's going through their head. But I think they probably feel like there's enough Spanish speakers that they can go into a cinema and somebody can help them. There's somebody can speak Spanish there that's going to help them. Or if they even in the case up here in Washington State, if they come to use any of the government services, there's translation line. We can serve anybody in any language: Swahili, Nigerian, Farsi, whatever.
We do that here too. Yeah, if you go to if you call the where you have to go for food stamps, something like that. If you don't speak the whatever language it is, they have to call someone on the phone, and they bring the translator on the line, and they do the whole they speak the back and forth type thing.
So I don't think they're expecting you specifically the food stamp worker to speak English. I think they're just expecting somebody to be able to serve them in their language. But you're making it sound like if all Americans don't speak Spanish, then they have an attitude, and they think that the whole country should learn their language. And I've just never encountered that. I've encountered people wanting to be served in their language, but not people that expect every person to speak their language to make them happy. That as long as there's some kind of Spanish option, that they're okay with that.
Okay, man. I mean, I just have to disagree on that one. I don't know what to say. I mean,
I'm not dismissing your experiences. I'm just saying I've never encountered that, and I've been around a lot of Mexicans, especially living in Vegas.
I mean, I thought it wasn't exactly something it was the first time it happened. It really shocked me, to be honest. It was like the first week I'd worked there too.
It was the kids at the movie theater.
It was all family.
Right. The fact that it shocked you should be an indication of how rare it is.
But then it kept happening over the next 2 years. As I worked there, it happened a lot. That was if I'm asking, I haven't worked in that set. I mean, at Amazon, for example, like when I worked at Amazon, there was an expert. There were a few people there that didn't speak English, but none of them were ever rude about it or anything. They didn't expect, and they usually spoke enough basic English that you could communicate with them. We didn't have to have translators usually, but you had to be able to speak well enough English just to basically understand basic understanding of if you need to get directions or where to get something or something like that. You didn't have to speak fluent English or anything like that, but they had a basic expectation of that. So the only place I've worked like that where I encountered that kind of thing was the movie theater, because I pretty much went from the movie theater to Amazon. So there's only two places here in this area when I've worked. So.
I'd have to see the interactions that you're talking about, but in my experience, I don't believe, and I might be wrong, but I don't believe that most immigrants expect the host country to learn their language. That just sounds odd to me.
That I mean, and that was something that like I said, whenever like I wish I could remember her name. She was such a sweet lady, like Guatemalan lady that she used to work. She works in the mornings a lot of times with me, and she would usually get there, like almost every time, like right after one of these things would happen. That's right when she'd come in, and I'd be like, I'd be like, damn it, like I just customer, I just missed. You got here just like a minute too late because these customers just left, and she would be like, oh, what happened, and so like that, and I explained. She was like it's very, she's like that, that's the way a lot of these people are and she referred to them as these people, not me. She would say that's the way these people are these days. They do not expect that, they expect that everyone should that was what she said, and there was a few other English speaking immigrant people there that all agreed with her about that. So I mean, it's maybe
Everyone might mean every business, not every single human being, but every business should be able to.
Well, I mean, if you want to start a small business, in the place you grew up, should you be expected to provide translation services in order to survive?
No, I don't serve Hispanic. I don't know Spanish. I can't take any non-English speaking clients myself.
Right.
So I think it's unreasonable to expect every business, but the businesses they already probably have their own grocery stores, their own doctors, their own medical services. So the larger businesses, like when you go to Walmart, to expect somebody in Southern Texas to be able to translate a Spanish conversation at Walmart is not too unreasonable to me, or even a movie theater. But if it's 3 a.m. and there's only one white guy working, yeah, adjust your expectations. But I don't think you can take these incidents and extrapolate to the idea that most immigrants expect Americans to learn Spanish to serve them. Like that, I question that attitude.
Okay.
I think they're mostly content if most of the businesses that they use can provide some kind of Spanish language service to them.
I know,
and I haven't.
Like I just like I said, like what it comes down to me is like I feel like if the situation was reversed and it was me in that situation and I was the one that went there expecting that with that expectation, I think that's wrong on me too. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. That's just your opinion using your subjective moral standard or standard of etiquette or whatever. But not everybody has to share it.
No.
If I moved to France, I've had French my whole life. If I moved to France, I know I would not be able to speak French, and I would have to rely on English speakers to help me get through conversations. If I'm at a store and there's no American or English speaker, I would be on my own, and I would probably get very frustrated and have to struggle. I might not even be able to shop there, but I know going in ahead of time that would be the likely situation, because even with my lifelong immersion in French, I do not have the fluency to conduct basic business in France.
I think it's
but I would also go with the expectation that there's probably enough English speakers there somehow that it would work out. Like I could make it through a trip to Paris.
Probably. I mean, and like most people in most European countries speak English, at least basically anyway. Even Japan and a lot of places like that do. But I
wouldn't be able to do Japan at all unless it was like I knew there was some Americans or English. Like I would definitely need help in Japan.
Oh, I mean, but I know that Japan is very catering to their English tourists because they have a lot of English.
Well, good. That's a credit to them, because I would depend on that. Probably like the Hispanics depend on the U.S. doing that here.
Probably so. I guess when it comes to tourism, it doesn't bother me that much but whenever it comes to people moving there, the reason it bothers me is because it makes it almost impossible for you to communicate with your neighbors, and it breaks down a sense. It's part of the reason the only neighbors of mine that I know are the ones that live directly next to me, because it's a black family and they're really nice and cool people, and we talk whenever we see each other all the time, and like that's the only kind of like neighborly like interactions I have. In fact, almost all the interactions I have with any of the Spanish speaking people that I guess speak no English at all, because I've had to ask them to move their vehicles or something sometimes. Like this one guy he has one of those gigantic pickup trucks, and he backs it. They actually made it where you can't back into spaces now in our place. I'm so happy about because it was. But he used to like back his truck up to the point where I couldn't get onto my porch. The truck.
Well, even stuff like that, they have like phone apps for now. Like I think this is much less managed. That kind of basic, like incidental communication that you have to do with the people around you, here and there, maybe once or twice a year. They have phone apps now that they have technology now.
Maybe so, and that's true. Like I mean, like I said, like if the universal translator things really start, become like a common thing that everyone has, and if we just understand each other, I would like to, in general, like just because of my basic theories and ideas about community and like and being a part of like the community and the culture around you. It's frustrating because I have tried somewhat. I guess I should. Maybe it is on me. Maybe I should be the one that has to learn their language. I don't know, but
adjust your expectations. You're probably not going to form any deep kind of community with people that don't speak your language. I don't ever expect to.
I guess not. But I mean, that's one of the things that we were always talking about, how like the breakdown of community in this country is part of the problem.
Yeah, but no, I've never discussed it cross-culturally. Like the assumption is that your community is going to share some kind of linguistic and cultural commonality. I'm not trying to build community with people whose language I don't speak. I've never mentioned that, advocated for that, attempted that.
You did. I was talking about. I mean, it's just when you live somewhere,
especially when there's enough community with people I do like. There's enough people that do speak my language that I can create community from within that language. If I moved to a foreign country, I'd probably look for a community of English speakers or Americans and form a community with those people, not necessarily the locals.
Fair enough.
I had another tweet and another video to share.
Bring it on.
All right, it's from Noah Smith, and it's kind of the point. Actually, I want to share both of these. The decolonial ideology that frames Israel as the paradigm case of settler violence has a larger, more important target in mind, the United States of America. I've said that before, which is why it surprised me to see it from the center, that Israel was a proxy for some of the woke views against America, and to see centrists adopt those same views, but directed toward Israel, made me think that maybe these are criticisms of America that they don't feel able to say for whatever reason, but they're coming out when they look at Israel. And Noah says, yes, I think this is right. Leftists don't really care much about Israel and Palestine. Their target is really America. They won't succeed, though America will remain uncanceled. And I've had that thought about the centrist criticisms of Israel as well. Like, is it America? Like Rowan and stuff. Is it America he's really criticizing? And is he seeing Israel through the same lens that the woke used to look at America?
I don't think Paul
is. Paul's an enigma. Because he also seems very pro-America.
Rowan is very critical of America. That is true, but but at the same, I don't think Paul.
I mean, there are things about America that Paul is critical of, like the military-industrial complex.
But I mean, he'd be critical of that no matter where it existed. I'm pretty sure. I don't think it has anything to do with America specifically. He doesn't like the military-industrial complex, but it's not because it's the American military-industrial complex. He doesn't like that.
Well, he criticizes it particularly from the American version of it. Which is
probably primarily exists here. I mean, that's true. It is primarily an American phenomenon. So.
But that was just an example. There are things about America he's criticized, is my point. But
yeah, sure.
I wonder why he sees one thing in Israel and not the same thing in America. Or does he see that in America? He's just not aware of it, but he's able to see it more clearly when he looks at Israel. And then this video it's that hearing from the university presidents, and they use AI to substitute the different.
Okay.
Yeah, just watch.
Ms. McGill, at Penn, does calling for the genocide of Black and Brown people violate Penn's rules or code of conduct? Yes or no?
If the speech turns into conduct, it can be harassment. Yes.
I am asking specifically calling for the genocide of LGBTQ people. Does that constitute bullying or harassment?
It is a context-dependent decision, Congresswoman.
It's a context-dependent decision. That's your testimony today. Calling for the genocide of Muslim people is depending upon the context. That is not bullying or harassment. This is the easiest question to answer. Yes, Ms. McGill.
To be fair, just about the general, I have not seen a single person on even the people that are on the pro-Palestine side, like that I've seen. I'm sure there's somebody out there, and I haven't looked into that deeply, but I didn't see anybody even amongst like the few news things that I do watch and stuff that cover that. I didn't see a single person, even the pro-Palestine side, say anything positive about that woman, the campus person. Like everybody more or less said that she was a moron, and like that was just ridiculous that she wouldn't like.
There were 3 morons. It wasn't just one.
Oh yeah, well yeah, but like
The Harvard one said she's not stepping down, and the board said we're not asking her to. We're standing by her. And they're opening. There are 7 universities. They're opening an investigation into about civil rights violations.
Mm-hmm. I'm just saying, like, even amongst some, I've seen plenty of woke people criticize that woman too. So I mean,
I've seen a few defenders on Twitter, but they usually get ratioed. Did you see that horrible SNL skit that they tried to attempt about the hearing?
I haven't watched.
It's so cringe. I don't want to play it because that it's
you'll
so
get
copyrighted.
They copyright.
But it's so cringe. The punchline seems to be Elise Stefanik, the congresswoman, and they try to make it seem like her questioning is what you should be laughing at. Like that's the subject of ridicule, and it comes off really bad. I couldn't even finish watching it. It was so bad.
I mean, SNL's been like that for a while now. I mean, and so I grew up watching SNL, and I can't say except for like the Will Ferrell and like the Chris Farley kind of eras I've seen enough reruns where there's some really good sketches in there, and like the Lonely Island guy did some good stuff. But like, man, it's been like that for at least 10 years now, where it's just been almost unwatchable.
This was a new low because you're right, it has, but this is like
I don't know,
for them.
Most of their Alec Baldwin Trump sketches. I mean, like once again, as not a fan of Trump, like they were so like there wasn't even jokes. It was just like he would just come out and just do his really bad Trump impression, and then everyone around him, they wouldn't even try to make jokes about it. They just have him come out and just like do this really stupid impression, and like they would do that. They did it. Like I mean, of course, I guess I'm the only person. Like I know, like whenever I was talking to you and Liv the other day, like you guys both hate Tulsi Gabbard, but I remember like whenever she was just kind of a little bit starting. She just started her very first presidential run back whenever it was like back to the same election that Trump was in or whatever. I think when Trump won, but whenever it was Hillary and Bernie and everybody all in competition, and like they did like a thing where they brought her on and literally had her had an evil mustache. She was like twirling a mustache and stuff like that and being like evil and stuff like that. And I just don't there are so many things they've done that are so politically cringe that I don't even understand. I don't understand why they think they're funny even. I don't get the joke half the time. Because like it's just I don't know. It's I know it's not too intellectual for me. No, it's not that. I think SNL has stopped trying to be relevant or funny for quite some time. They don't even try to make jokes. They just mostly just like they do really blasé milquetoast political commentary that you could get anywhere now. I'm surprised it hasn't been canceled, to be honest. I can't imagine that it's I mean seriously, it's been on the verge of cancellation for years. I can't believe that they keep renewing it because no one watches it really. It's not really part of like.
I haven't watched it in like probably over a decade. It made probably 2 decades.
It's just out of habit. I kept watching it up until probably 2 years ago or so, maybe 3 years ago. I don't know. I've seen an episode or two in the last couple of years, but just because it was maybe because the guest on there, something I wanted to see like what happened like with like when maybe last time Kanye was on there when Dave Chappelle or something like that hosted. Mostly just to see their monologues. But I haven't watched a single episode from these last 2 seasons. I don't think at all. And it's
Black Jeopardy was funny, but that's the only funny thing I've seen from them. In
Black Jeopardy was, I mean, all the Jeopardy stuff was funny. Even like, I mean, just whenever they had Will Ferrell doing Alex Trebek and stuff, and like they had him and like doing the dude doing I can't remember the actor's name, but he was doing like the Sean Connery thing, you know, like the category is therapist, and he's like, I'll take the rapist for 500, you know. That's one of the funny. That's one of the funniest SNL jokes of all time, I think. Plus, I always thought Lonely Island's most of Lonely Island song stuff was pretty funny. Dick in a Box and I'm on a Boat and stuff like that. I used to like that stuff. I haven't, but yeah, they stopped going out and finding funny people to be in their show, and they went and started finding like people that fit like the diversity agenda type thing. They have like one lady. The last time I did see a clip or anything, there's like this one lady or whatever that's on there. I guess she's like non-binary or something. She just looks like a woman to me, but she's apparently like non-binary. And as far as I could tell, it was like I think it was part of the Weekend Update thing, and her entire shtick, if you want to call it that, the joke is just that how she's non-binary and people keep calling her ma'am or something. That was just like there's a repetition of that over and over again, and how ridiculous it was, like that she keeps getting called ma'am even though she's clearly non-binary. Like that's an expectation that people should understand. And it wasn't playing off of the joke of like how that's ridiculous. It was literally like the joke was like, people need to stop misgendering me because like it's not right. And like that, it wasn't a joke. It was just like,
who is she? She's a current.
I don't know if
Yes,
she's
member?
current. This has been the last 2 years. I don't know if she could still be on there. She might not be. I haven't watched more. That was a clip I saw on YouTube or something, like somebody was talking about it on a news thing or something like that. They talked about
Like
it. So.
everybody's non-binary. That word has like absolutely no meaning. You might as well just say, "Oh, I'm human,"
Well, just like I know it's like just
or androgynous, which we can tell. Like we know what androgyny looks like when we see it.
Yeah, totally. And just the fact, just the fact that you're labeling something.
Molly Kearney, is that her?
Oh yeah, that's her. Yeah, that sounds
Let's
right.
see what this chick is about. Oh Lord, she looks Oh, yeah, she looks like she could reboot a Pat skit.
Yeah, it's exactly that.
She looks like a female. She looks like a
female, but at the same time, it's like they found the real life Pat.
What am I supposed to? Hey, I'm gonna share photos so that people can see. I want y'all to look at this and tell me she's non-binary. Oh, hang on, that's the wrong page. Tell me what I'm supposed to see that's non-binary, that's different from if she was an ordinary woman, because that's what I can't figure out. Here we go. This chick right here, this lady, this obvious female. What is the difference between her, who's non-binary, and an ordinary woman that I'm supposed to be able to pick up?
She's not even particularly tomboyish. She's not even androgynous. She's clearly female.
Right. Like, so when she says I'm non-binary, not female, what am I supposed to do with that? What markers am I even supposed to, like, if I wanted to train my brain pattern recognition and learn to accommodate non-binary, what am I supposed to do with this information?
Exactly. Yeah.
She's giving me completely useless information that my brain can do absolutely nothing with.
And yeah, I understand. Like, I'm sure if you met this person, I'm sure she would introduce herself as such, as being non-binary, and with and with her pronouns and everything else like that. But and then the expectation is that you were supposed to immediately like reprogram your brain to
right. There's something I'm supposed to adjust in my brain, but I don't know what that thing is because everybody's non-binary.
Yeah. Well, I mean, sure.
So what is she telling me? What information is she giving me?
They them pronouns probably. That's probably the main thing. She probably wants they them pronouns. Anything. I guess.
The pronoun I'm going to use when I'm talking to her is you. You. The same pronoun we use for everybody is you. Y-O-U. You.
Mm-hmm.
She's worried about what pronouns I'm going to use behind her back when she's not around.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm going to use she because that's what she looks like.
Even if I wanted to try to like even I don't, but if I wanted to,
right, that's what's so frustrating. They make it impossible. It's like a gotcha or a impossible setup.
Yeah,
that
like, no
even if you want to accommodate them and meet them where they are, they make it impossible because they're so convoluted. Their demands and expectations are so convoluted.
I mean, there are trans men that absolutely they make the effort, even if you can tell that they're a little bit feminine or something like that, so they make the effort, and it's zero issue there calling that person a male or program my brain to recognize them as male. But there's so many, like, it's mostly a TikTok thing. I'd be honest, at the end of the day, but there's so many of these, there's so many TikToks I've seen recently on like various YouTube things and everything where it's just it's not even a girl like with a slightly tomboyish thing. I mean, clearly dressed in a dress, like as feminine as you can
Well,
look. I mean,
the video we saw the other day that
Yeah.
what's this Buck Angel played
yeah,
of that
exactly.
obvious woman like insisting that she was male and she took hormones and it's changed her biology to be male, and she's sitting there with a long hair, makeup, jewelry.
Yeah, I mean, nothing about them reads even non-binary, even androgynous. It's clearly they clearly look female as much. Of course, the same thing you see the same thing with like all these like the bearded lady thing. You see all these like trans women that have full on beards and they make no attempt at all to try to like hide the fact that they're men, except the fact they might put lipstick on. They put lipstick on and that's it. That's all you're supposed to do. Even though like
And I wish we had lived here, because the other thing I want to know is the question Ben asked on that Benjamin Boyce thing we watched. What is the difference between an effeminate gay man and a self-IDing trans woman? Like what? Like if you put me in a room full of feminine gay, like on RuPaul, I watch RuPaul's Drag Race, and if you put me in a room full of the queens, some of them are trans, and some of them are effeminate gay men. I can't tell the difference. Like they look identical to me. They read identical to me. Psychologically, when I'm interacting with them, they seem identical. I can't. My eye cannot spot the difference between a effeminate gay male and a male that's socially transitioning into the self-ID category of female.
And a lot of times, honestly, like effeminate gay males, I can tell. Usually, the one way you could tell is the fact that the ones that are the self ID ones often are making no effort whatsoever to actually present as female in any way or even act feminine. They usually just come across like men, except they have like one thing. They have like a wig or they have like makeup. They have some degree of makeup on, which that's just like, I mean, David Bowie was doing that shit in the 70s and wasn't even like
right.
Androgyny.
Like Dylan Mulvaney and Jeffrey Marsh look like gay men to me. They look like every gay person you meet at a gay bar.
Mulvaney at least makes some attempt, at least like I mean, I don't.
He doesn't pull it off. He looks like a little gay boy in a wig.
He does, but at least you can see that their effort. Jeffrey Marsh, on the other hand, it's like he's literally trying to. It's like he's almost
he has a beard.
He's more of a troll than even Mulvaney is. At least Mulvaney doesn't have the beard. Like I mean, at least I don't shave every day, but I'm not trying to look like a woman either. And because I hate shaving, so I mean, I sympathize. I don't like shaving either. But if you want people to recognize you as the other gender, then you're gonna have to put that much effort in. You're gonna have to give them that much at least. You're gonna have to do at least the thing of like at least not having a full beard, because that is just that is we are all programmed from just human beings recognize beard.
No, that's a flaw. There's something wrong with you, and your program is defective, and you have to do the work to reprogram yourself.
Right. I mean, there have been there are women in some, I think maybe it's in some like Nordic type areas where like that do have like a gene where they do kind of grow facial hair pretty prominently. So there are such things like bearded ladies that literally have like that.
Oh, like the Viking troll women.
Yeah, like thing like that where like they do kind of in that, but it's uncommon even in those areas. It's not a common thing, so it's still an uncommon thing. It's not like people would, but they also look fairly feminine. Otherwise, they have female bodies, they have breasts and everything like that. So it's not like you can't. But it's not like you can just literally. You can't just put lipstick on a pig and call it a woman. It's just. I'm not actually calling them pigs. I'm just using the whole lipstick as a pig, putting lipstick on the pig as a common phrase. You just because you put a feminine coded whatever it is, I guess it's the terminology, a feminine coded item on something or on someone or whatever, it doesn't make them a woman, because even I agree that's not what makes people female or male. Like that's not even, it shouldn't matter. Like you can, if a dude, like people like, like what was it? Or like people were mad a couple years back because like that Harry Styles dude like did that Rolling Stone.
Oh yeah.
I was like, come on, it wasn't even, I didn't understand what the controversy was. Fucking, what's his name? Kurt Cobain was doing that shit in the 90s.
Right. I was say I remember when Kurt Cobain wore
and
the
then David Bowie before
and
that.
David Bowie before that, yes. Yeah. And probably some other dudes before that. Andy Warhol was kind of feminine. His little factory crowd.
But people were like, oh, he's trying to be a woman now. He's going trans. All this. I'm just like, Like that's just so stupid. Like to even like get upset about. I mean, it's just like I mean, especially someone who's like trying to be rock and roll or something like that. They're trying to be counterculture. It's like one of the easiest ways to do it. I mean,
the Cockettes were doing it even before David Bowie.
yeah.
That was like late 60s, early 70s.
And anybody doing sketch comedy has been doing like dressing up. They've had dudes dressing up.
Well, and Shakespeare's Globe, they didn't have any female.
I'd say that's what I said a second ago about Shakespeare's actors. Yeah, they didn't. I mean, that was just common back then. They didn't think that women. They did not. Women weren't allowed to be on stage back then. They didn't allow women to be actors or actresses. Period. So, I mean, that whole thing was like.
I don't know what's new about this new generation that I'm supposed to change my like reprogram my brain to accommodate when it's nothing new.
The only thing that's changed is the fact that they feel like this identity label is so important to them.
I don't care about their feeling. I know. Their feelings are their concern, not mine. I don't care how people feel about certain words. I don't have the seconds of the day to worry about how every person feels about every word I use.
But that's why we're the bigots, though.
Well, I guess I'm a bigot then, because polyamory, or what is it? Pansexual is bisexual. Non-binary is androgyny.
That one, the pansexual, the fact that bisexual is now called I do not understand that one at all. Like I'm literally I just mean
because the way it was explained to me is something like bisexual is gender based. It's still referencing two specific genders, and pansexual is more individual. Like you're attracted to any individual person regardless of, it's not tied to gender.
But then if you're attracted to both genders, then it's the same thing.
But in practice, it works the exact same way. There's no difference between being attracted to males and females and being attracted to individual people who happen to be male or female.
I guess the only thing I can say that you include that is I guess intersex people that are kind of like born kind of androgynous, but then again, that kind of like if you're bisexual, it seems like only natural that you would include that as like it could include someone like that would be potentially someone you'd be attracted to. I mean, even I've said myself, like I've never been attracted to a man sexually, but it's not like I never considered it like it never occurred to me as like something that was impossible. I've just always been attracted.
Probably is impossible. I don't know how you would suddenly be attracted to a sex you've never been attracted to. I've never been attracted to females, drag queens, effeminate men, trans men. Like none of that attracts me.
Yeah. I mean,
so it's not just physical; it's the whole physical, psychological matrix of what makes up male or masculinity versus female.
I mean, for that matter, I myself, I find myself, I do not get attracted to very many people. Period. I'm not the kind of person. I don't find like I can objectively see whenever like a celebrity, male or female, is objectively like symmetrical and like the ones that everyone knows are hot. I can see why that. I can understand that, but I typically find myself attracted to like any of like the big like sex icons, like your Beyoncé's and your the I don't know what other actresses are big right now. There's anybody I can think of, but like I've never like been attracted to many traditionally or many supermodels. Like I remember when I was a kid, it was like Cindy Crawford was like the big like she was like the supermodel. All the teenage boys all thought was all hot, and I just didn't get it. I don't know. I didn't think she was all that attractive. The girls I thought were cute were just very different, and it was very it really was. It was like it came out of the individual person. From a sexual perspective, I certainly never had any inclinations towards being gay. So like, I mean, it was pretty easy, but I never found myself, but I never thought to myself, well, I am definitely, I never identified myself as being, I am a straight person. I know for a fact that I could never, it just seems silly to even think that way. I don't understand like why you would. I mean, it's not like, I don't even feel like if someone were to, more or less have been straight their whole life and like they were with one, but they fell in love with if a man falls in love with a man, I don't even know why it even means it has to mean that they're gay at that point. They're just a person, whatever. The label isn't useful to me.
Well, because biology matters, I think.
Biology matters, yeah, but I don't think, but the attraction part of it doesn't really matter in that sense. I just like, it doesn't matter to me whether or not like they label themselves as gay or pansexual or bisexual or something like that. Just whatever, just like whoever you're attracted to is fine. It doesn't. You don't need to explain it to me with a with terminology. That's why I've been saying for a while. I think like the whole, we've gotten to the point where maybe we don't need the whole, coming out type thing, because it's not useful for me to know someone's sexuality unless we're in a potential like pairing type situation. Outside of that, it doesn't matter at all my interactions with them. I don't.
Well, it helps to know if you're with a group full of women. It helps to know which ones are lesbian and which ones are potential mates.
It does, yeah. In that situation, that's true. But I mean, but once you get past that stage, and that's only in social situations. Like at work, for example, I had plenty of people that there were especially new employees would a lot of times would have would love to introduce themselves as being gay or lesbians or whatever the case might be. And I just kind of like rolled my eyes and accepted at the time. But it was always it was such a showy, obnoxious type thing. It was like a look at me type thing every time. It's like this thing.
I don't need to know at work.
Yeah, but
unless I'm trying to like set somebody up. But like if they're single and they want me to know they're a lesbian, because if I know of any lesbians, I could like.
Yeah. Sure, that's the situation where it matters. I'm just saying, but like there's people that felt the need as a new hire at a company, like on first day, when you're introducing yourself to your team, to come out to the team immediately that everyone needed to know that they were gay.
I always came out if it came up, if there was an opportunity or it was relevant or it had a purpose. And like with being a gay rights advocate before we got married and everything, it was always helpful to be as visible as possible. So I didn't like announce it the first thing, but I did announce it the earliest possible opportunity because I didn't want to mislead or deceive anybody, and I wanted to be visible so that people could see that there's, to the extent that I'm ordinary, that there's ordinary gay people out there.
No, and I get it.
And so I kind of took it as a political opportunity for advocacy as well. But
no, and
I never led with it. There was never any reason to lead with it.
For you and like for the kind of advocacy stuff you've done and just general like the space you work in even as a commentator or doing this show and everything, it makes perfect sense for that to be something that's part of like your profile, for that to be something that people know about you. That makes perfect sense. I'm talking about like in most general like work type or just very basic social situations, it's not necessary information. And it doesn't, and it adds like this weird, it always made me feel weird. It was like, am I supposed to treat you differently or something? Are you telling me this because it's supposed to change the way I interact with you?
Yeah.
Based on this, that's the reason why I mostly, but then again, like, one of my best friends at Amazon, the people I became really good, close coworkers with was my coworker, Brianna. And she was like this real petite, like little brunette, like girl that like she was like she didn't even look like she was even she didn't look she was even 18. She was so petite she looked like she was practically 12. But we got along real well. We had a sense of humor, got along real well. I didn't know for like, it wasn't until like 6 months down the line that she mentioned her girlfriend once, and that was the first time that it even, and we were just friends. And like I'm married. I wasn't hitting on her. She wasn't hitting on me. We just had a good friendship. And the fact that she was a lesbian didn't come up because it wasn't important. There wasn't anything, nothing about my interactions were going to change based on the fact that she was gay. And that's what I'm saying. And generally speaking, the only time that it ever matters if you're in like social pairing type things. But then even then, it's still kind of weird for people to like, I don't know, like, I mean, it's like, people sort of wear like badges that tell, if you go to a bar, maybe you should wear a badge that lets people know what sexuality or something. I don't know. I mean,
maybe in a situation like a bar, like I think it helps in a gay bar to know which of the people are not gay, and it helps in a straight bar to know which of the people there are gay. Because really the bars is like a specific context where there's more potential for looking for mates.
People really go to gay bars. I mean, I've gone.
They do, but it just helps to know. Like if the bar's predominantly gay, it helps to know which people are not there to find a mate, and so you can adjust your.
I guess I must give off real straight vibes because I have spent time in gay bars and I've never once had anything. I mean, granted, I usually was with Lindsay or something, but
the assumption is if you're at a gay bar, you're gay unless you're told otherwise. So it cuts down on like awkwardness.
Sure.
To know ahead of time if that person's, or if I'm in a straight bar hanging out with my straight friends, I don't want random women hitting on me. So it helps to know as early as possible that I'm not there for the same reason all these other guys are.
Sure. I mean, but at the same time, like the one time that ever happened to me in a gay bar, one guy did come up and ask me to dance or something at one time. I remember, and I was like, "Oh man, that's nice of you," but I'm married. I'm straight. I'm married to this lady right here. And he was like, "Okay," and that was fine. That was the only interaction. It wasn't awkward. It wasn't. It was just like, oh, no big deal. I don't know. It didn't bother me any. It's flattering, if anything, just, like I mean, it's like, someone thought I was attractive enough to, like, ask me to dance with them. Like, that's not I don't know. I just think it's we've gotten so obsessed with, like, the people are they tie their whole self and everything they are to some kind of, like, cultural identity thing. And if people can't, like, it's like they don't feel like they can exist without it. Like, it's like
I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think culture is important, but I question whether gay is a culture, like sexuality is a culture. Like, people tie themselves to their Jewish identity or their Muslim identity. I know my Cajun identity is very important to me, and I don't think there's anything wrong or bad about that.
I guess it's fine. I guess I don't think of you, but I mean, even though I know you are Cajun, I know that, and you talk about something, I have no issue with that, but I don't think of you as a Cajun or a gay guy or anything. I think of you as Jeff, so I just don't, and I don't think of myself as, being like, even though I am technically, I joke about it because, I mean, it's technically true. I am technically a second generation immigrant. My dad was born in Spain, so I'm not, but I don't think of myself like that. It's not something that I ever tie to my, the way I think isn't tied to that in any way that I can tell. And I've tried to examine that myself, to try to see if, like, to try to see if that's true in myself. Do I act a certain way, or do I think through a lens of being straight white man? Is that like, do I see everything through, like,
Probably
a straight
not.
white man lens? I don't.
I had a whole life before I discovered that I was gay or came out the closet at all. So it was not like the most important thing about me. Even then, even as a teenager, it was not my whole identity. I had already had years and years and years of building up an identity outside of that. So there's no one aspect of me that is the core of my identity.
Yeah. I mean, but I feel like that's the, for whatever reason, this generation, or these last couple of generations, have gotten it into their head somehow that's the way it's, that you need to have, like, one core central identity thing that defines.
Well, but is it, like, with intersectionality though? Is it one core identity?
I know. Well, they're so contradictory, aren't they? I mean, like, when do they get like this? So yeah, they'll talk about intersectionality.
I don't know that the message, even from the woke, is that you must have one single identity.
Not one single one, one central one that defines you more than.
Well, it's fluid because it's whichever one is on the bottom of the oppression hierarchy, because that's the one that gets you the most power.
Right.
And right now, it used to be trans. Now, if you're Palestinian, you're going to have even more power than trans people. So you center the one that gives you the most power, or is most oppressed, because
a really dark-skinned trans Palestinian person must be, like, the most powerful person on earth right now.
Probably. Female trans Palestinian.
Yeah, like basically a Palestinian whose skin is dark.
Until we find which group is more oppressed than the Palestinians. Although I don't know how you could not make a case for the Jews as being the most oppressed minority in the history of oppression.
Oh, because they started a country, and therefore
right. It's the same as the gays. We were oppressed until we got marriage, and then all of a sudden we were part of the dominant. What is it? The hegemony, the dominant patriarchy.
It's like
culture.
Welcome to the club. Now you're like everybody else.
The minute you gain, the goal is to get into the club, and the minute you do,
you don't want to be there.
Become a villain.
Yeah.
So they want access, they want inclusion, but the minute you get inclusion, you become part of the problem.
Not just part of it, you are the problem. You are the oppressor. You're a colonizer and a.
So they don't want inclusion. They want to tear down the current, whatever they view as the oppressive structure. They're not trying to get included into it. That's a like an Orwellian term.
Yeah, just like you talked about before, there was there were people like you who really did want, you wanted equality and everything when for when in the active in the gay rights movement, but there was also a lot of them that did not want that they didn't want
Those
they
are the
didn't want
queers.
yeah
That's what they call. They call themselves queers or anti-assimilationists.
right they didn't want they did not want they didn't want they didn't want equality. They wanted an elevated status. Really, is what they wanted to get
At the very minimum, they were separatists. They wanted a separate society that was not founded on what they perceived as heterosexual paradigm in any way. And now it's like, at least then, that was their most, like, the most generous case you could make for them. Now it's morphed into they actively want to tear down the heterosexual paradigm. Like, they're actively hostile to heterosexuality and the idea of heterosexuals. But back then, like in the early 90s when they started, they would have been content as long as they could live separately and not have to interact with straight people, and they could build their own little world. But now they've turned around and targeted that towards straight people.
I've always loved the pejorative that those types use for straight people. They're calling us breeders. Like we're like
I never did like I never even all my gay friends would use it, and I never was comfortable using that term.
It's so dehumanizing. It really is. I mean, it doesn't bother me really.
I never used it myself, and I would cringe when other people would use it. I mean, that term never sat right with me.
I had a couple of my gay friends would use it as a joke, like towards me specifically, because just jabbing at me, and it didn't bother me. But I didn't know none of them ever used it like in a serious like trying to be insulting type of way. A couple of, I mean, like,
yeah, oh no, it was always playful and joking.
Yeah.
It was never, but even playful and joking. Unless they were talking about the band with Kim and Kelly Deal that spun off from the Pixies,
right? Yeah.
Which they actually named it after that word,
Yeah.
like that concept of breeders.
Which it's just funny because they were because she was gay too, wasn't she?
I always thought she was, but apparently no. She had a husband. Even when she was in the Pixies, she had a husband. She was married. She was Mrs. John Murphy.
Maybe it was her partner then the other one of the two. I can't remember the other girl's name, but like maybe
Kim and Kelly. They were twins.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I know one of the Tegan and Sarah, like one of the two of them was gay, and the other one isn't. And then like, I know what's her name from did Portlandia? She's gay, but yeah.
Oh, Carrie Brownstein. Oh, the one
from I can't remember the name of the
the
band.
one that did Slater Kinney.
Slater Kinney. There you go. I love all those bands. I always thought the Breeders as a name was funny. I always thought it was funny as a band name. I just thought I was joking with Lindsay the other day. I think it'd be funny just to call a band call a band Misogyny. Like a hardcore band or something. Call it Misogyny.
Good.
And have one female member of the band, and it'd be like a shtick where like they in between songs you just berate the one woman in the band. Just be like this in joke type thing. It wouldn't really be something that I always come up with like stupid joke band ideas that I would never do, but I love to come up with like obscure like sound or just really bizarre band names that I always write down like the best ones. The best obscure band name I ever came up with too wasn't something I even came up with. Like somehow like my TV has one of those things where if you hit a button you can like I guess you can talk to there's a microphone on the remote or something and you can like search for something like that, right? And I don't know, we'd hit the button and I don't have any idea what me and Lindsay were talking about, but what came up on the screen was the search term it tried to look for was what was it? Oh shit. I just had it in my head and it flew to my it was Bikes and the Painful Right Now. And I thought that was like the best band name I've ever heard. Bikes and the Painful. It makes no sense at all. It's just absolute word salad that comes from nothing but a computer misunderstanding like somebody's talking. So it'd be funny to have that as a band name because like I guess people would like be wondering what it meant the whole time, but it means nothing. Like most band names that seem like they mean nothing, like Neutral Milk Hotel, that actually does have a pretty there's actually a meaning behind that people think it's just word salad, but it's not. Neutral Milk Hotels back in the pioneer days were in the Civil War. They were literally like they were a milk hotel was a place where it was a hotel that was not a brothel and didn't serve alcohol, and they were neutral, and since they were not on either the north or the south side, so that's where the term Neutral Milk Hotel comes from. Just a little factoid. It's my favorite band, so.
Oh.
I got to see when they did their reunion tour back, I don't know, 10 years ago or so. Like I got to go see one of the shows. Lindsay got me tickets for it, and
They're from Louisiana.
Yeah.
There was a little like indie scene in northern Louisiana that a lot of those. What was the label?
Elephant Six.
Elephant Collective, yeah. Elephant Six.
Elephant Collective. I think they changed it to Elephant Collective later on, but it was Elephant Six was the. I mean, it was born out of Louisiana, and also that there's one area in Georgia. It's not. I can't remember the name of the area is now. There's this little tiny town.
Athens?
Yeah, Athens. Yeah, it's where like that's where so many.
Yeah, REM, B-52s,
Danger Mouse. I wrote an article about it for Cracked, and like there's like it like the list. When I did the research into it, man, like the number of bands is like there's like at least 50 famous, like very influential artists that came from Athens, Georgia. It's high for considering how small that town is. It's just insane because, like, you know, yeah, there's more bands that have come out of New York City for certain, but New York City's massive, you know, so it doesn't that's really nothing weird. But like,
didn't of Montreal wasn't he in there too?
I think he's part of the Athens.
And he was an Elephant, or he was on the label, the Elephant Collective, because they all started about the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of all those guys too. They're some of my favorites. Jeff Mangum himself, that's like one I still like. If I pick up a guitar, if I don't sing one of a song I wrote, I usually end up playing a Neutral Milk Hotel song or a Songs of Hio song. It's like the main things I usually play on guitar. So.
Oh, by the way, I have an appointment tomorrow and I work, so I can't stream until the evening, like 6 o'clock ish.
Yeah, no problem.
So we're gonna have a late stream tomorrow, folks. Do you want to since we have a guest today, we can end early and go watch some more TV or something?
Sure. Yeah. I need to. Yeah. I can go down. I have to. I can do that a little bit later. When we wrap up here in a second, I've got to go run packages down to the office for mail to mail off a couple of orders, and then I've got to run back.
I see your pile is gone, so that looks like progress.
I did the pile last night. I got that done. There is another pile on the other side, but that was there before anyway. But it's smaller. I also reduced down the number of. I only have 2 tubs and 1 trash bag now to have to be put online. My laundry experimentation is going quite well. My new formula for my new stain treatment has been very effective. So.
Well, yeah, go do that and just message me when you're back.
I'll message you a little bit. I'm not.
I have something tonight at 7:30, but I'll be free outside of that.
Yeah, I've got like I said, I'll send you a couple pictures too and see if you because I want to send you this. I want to send you this one hoodie, and I'll send you a couple pictures of both things, see if you have any interest in them too. There are things that like I know that like they even though I think they're really awesome items, but like they just typically don't sell. So so you don't have to worry about it. It's not taking money or away for anything. But there are things that I really like that I would wear if I could wear them, but they're just too small for me. So I gained too much weight back during the pandemic. So and during my own old mental health crisis there for a while. So it's really just because I can't exercise. That's the only reason why. But anyway, yeah. There's something else. Yeah, there's something else I was gonna say. I can't remember what it was. Lost my train of thought earlier, like way earlier on. There's something I was going to say about something, and I can't remember what it was. I guess it'll occur to me later. So that's fine. Anyway, good talk. This was like, I can't believe like we like absolutely nobody stopped in today. There's nobody in the comments, nobody watching. It's like a sleepy Tuesday, I guess.
Well, we'll do it again tomorrow and I think Machine's streaming tomorrow evening too, so we can do like a pre-stream.
Sure,
And
sure. I don't know. I haven't gone. I haven't watched his stream last few just because like
I haven't either, but that's where most of our viewers are going to be. So we'll stream early,
I
and
haven't
then
seen- I
they
haven't
can
seen
go to
anybody in
his.
Discord in like 2 or 3 days. Like for a little while, for like most last week, it was pretty.
I noticed that too. It's dead. Like Twitter's
Yeah.
been dead. Discord's been dead. It's not just you. Like I don't know if it's the holidays or this time of year, but the internet life is not active right now.
Yeah, it was because like just the previous week, like there wasn't a night that went by that I wasn't having a conversation with somebody or somebody was on there to talk to or something like that. But like nobody's
It's been the same for me. Like hardly any of my notifications have been going off at all,
Yeah, no, I haven't seen any notifications for anybody. I sent
unless
out.
we got canceled.
I sent out like just my basic like just like kind of like little like announcements about the show today and stuff like that. And usually like at least 1 or 2 people that I send these to will usually just be like, oh yeah, I'm busy or whatever like that. Nobody.
Well, that's good though. They have lives. That's encouraging.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, I support them having lives. I'm not like I'm not disparaging anybody, but it's just weird because usually people like will be like, oh, I'm busy right now or something like. It's just, I guess everybody's got their own thing. I mean, it is granted. It's like what? It's not even. It's like 2 weeks till Christmas, which is kind of messing with my head. I swear, time is really flowing weird for me lately. I just,
Well, maybe tomorrow we'll get a different audience because we're streaming at a different time. So maybe it'll be a different crowd. So tomorrow, 6 p.m. Central, not our usual time, and then we'll be back on track after that. So I guess we'll see everybody tomorrow. Have a good time, whatever y'all are off doing.
Yes, y'all shall see us again tomorrow at 6. Good night, everyone. Bye.
Bye.